I call to order the regular session of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Vaticiotis?
Here.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Here.
Commissioner Eisner?
Here.
Commissioner Kulyas is on his way down. Commissioner Kulianis?
Here.
All right. This evening's invocation will be done by Reverend Christina Grist, Director of Mission and Ministries of Advent Health. I ask everyone to rise, and then at the end of the invocation, we can turn and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Please bow our heads. Holy God, today I want to thank you for the men and women who serve this community, and I want to pray for them. Bless them with your protection from harm. Bless them with your wisdom for making decisions. Bless them with your strength to carry these decisions out. Bless them with courage when too many obstacles come their way. Bless them with peace to navigate their journey of service through the highs and the lows. I pray for your presence and your spirit tonight in this meeting for the discussions and the decisions. I also want to pray for the city of Tarpon Springs, that you guide, that you protect the ones that live here, the ones that work here, and the leaders. Protect them and guide them. This I pray in your loving name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
For all.
Ms. Jacobs, I'd like it noted that Commissioner Kulyas joined the meeting. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to public comments. Are there any public comments?
Gary Posh, 1140 South Point Alexis Drive, Tarpon Springs, 34689. Good evening. Many years ago when I was in school, and I do mean many years ago, Ronald Reagan was president. And oh, by the way, I went to school in Manhattan, so that automatically puts me at a disadvantage to some in this room. But as any immigrant or migrant will tell you, you can't change where you were born, so get over it. Anyhow, when I went to school in Manhattan, it was a 12-mile distance from my home in Queens, and the things I saw amazed me. There were men there in turbans up to here, women dressed all in black, 100-degree weather, dressed in black with only a little slit for their eyes. There were other men and women dressed in these brightly colored robes that I had never seen. But even at age 19 or 20, it didn't take me long to realize that these people who were so different from me were good, hardworking people who were doing the exact same thing I was, trying to get ahead in this world. It made me realize that not every good person or great idea originated in a 5-mile radius from my home. Anyhow, when I was in school, I had to take a class called History of the English Language. In it, I learned that the modern English language evolved primarily from 3 languages: French, Old English, and Latin. However, and quite appropriately, I feel the word I'm going to talk about today is Greek in origin. So those of us who are Greek may feel some affinity to this word because it comes from the birthplace of our ancestors. The word to which I refer is xenophobia, and it's partially defined as an irrational fear of outsiders. An irrational fear of outsiders. And let me tell you this, it is the ugliest when it's coming from the mouths of supposedly educated people. And I stress, supposedly educated people. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Debbie McKinney, 1021 Rose Tree Lane, Tarpon Springs, 34689. This is probably the worst time to bring this up, but is there any way that in the near future we can look at opening up Diston? I never knew what the results of that were. I understand the people north of the closure didn't want it open, but example today, the accident, the only northbound route was alternate 19, which caused other accidents. The people south of the opening, I don't know that they were as heavily considered their opinion when they opened up Mears. I never was on Distin between Mears and Martin Luther King until we opened up Mears. And were those people also asked whether they wanted opened or not? So anyway, my opinion is I think it needs to be opened. We have one northbound route when there's an accident on US 19 and that only alternate northbound route is alternate 19. and it's a mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Or any other public comments? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have a raised hand. I'll allow this person in. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Peter Delacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. And before I get into my main subject, here is our psalm for today, 67. May God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine upon us. May your ways be known on earth, your salvation among all nations. May the peoples praise you, O God. May all the peoples praise you. May the nations be glad and sing for joy. For you rule the peoples justly and guide the nations of the earth. May the peoples praise you, O God. May all the peoples praise you. Then the land will yield its harvest, and God, our God, will bless us. God will bless us, and all the ends of the earth will fear him. Now, here is my comment, and this is going to reference the email sent by former Commissioner David Banther on August 11th. And not knowing if many people have read it, they can go to the clerk or someone can put it online, but it says, Board of Commissioners, I know you all have court today, so keep it brief. I watched the BOC meeting this week and read the damaging article in the Tampa Bay Times. It has never been more clear that the instigator-in-chief, Mayor Vaticiotto's failed leadership has resulted in the absolute mess in which the city finds itself. I'm going to skip to paragraph 4. He has accomplished nothing besides spending money on consultants and personal witch hunts. His tenure has found the city facing at least 2 very damaging lawsuits for which we, the citizens, will be paying for years to come. I want to stop here for a moment. The whole reason, and you know it, y'all seen the emails, it's all been put out in the public. The reason we're in these lawsuits was because of Mr. Terrapini and Mr. Banther digging their nose into the city and doing their own back stuff. So for them to say Costa and the board is doing back stuff, shame on you, David. And further on, he makes other disparaging comments. And then it's interesting where he praises Commissioner Kulyas, yet during the election, him and his consortium did everything they could to not get him into office. So the hypocrisy in this email is rampant. And I just need to point it out because I know Costa and some of the other members on the board would probably not have brought this up, but I just have to show out hypocrisy when I see it. Thank you for your time, and thank you again for allowing us to comment remotely and participate in our local government. God bless you all.
Thank you, thank you. All right, are there any other remote access comments?
And we do not have any other raised hands at this time.
Ms. Jacobs, do we have any emails?
We have received no emails for this meeting
So you
tonight.
want to, we have none?
We have none.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm going to close the public comments and go to the consent agenda. As we've done in the past, I'm going to ask commissioners if they simply have comments to wait until we go through all of them. Unless they have specific questions on any one, then I'm going to ask them to pull those. Does any commissioner would like to pull any of the agenda items? I see that we don't. Okay, I'm going to read the agenda. consent agendas. Number 1, satisfaction and release of liens. Number 2, attorney's fees. A, Johnson Jackson PLC invoices. B, Eunice Salzman Jensen PA invoices. Item 3, special event, the Seafood Festival. Item 4, approve Amendment 1 to the Emergency Medical Services Agreement. Item 5, authorize execution of agreement for polling place at Community Center. Item 6, authorize execution agreement of polling place at the Heritage Center. Item 7, authorize execution of agreement for public art wayfinding sign. Item A, award file number 230202, single source purchase of custom theater chairs. Item 9, award file number 230180, single source purchase, delivery, and installation of refurbished office unit. Item 10, award file number 23000212, purchase of vehicles. Item 11, ratify increase and renew file number 230110, body armor and ballistic vest. I'm going to go to public comments. Are there any public comments on any of these 11 items? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on these items, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Ms. Jacobs, no emails at all for the rest of the meeting?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Let me go to the commissioners. Do any commissioners have any comments on any of these?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that the Seafood Festival, I see it is again this year going to be at Craig Park, and that's fine, but I'm hoping if in the futures we have other spots open up potentially in town, that we do try to get them local towards some of the other businesses in the area. So, thank you.
Okay. Is there any other comment? May I have a motion to approve in a second, please, all 11 items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
If there's no further comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. I'm going to go on to the special consent agenda. Approve the annual sidewalk improvement program. City Manager LaCourse.
Yes, I'll have Tom Function. He'll be doing the annual sidewalks. Tom?
Good evening, Tom Function, Public Works Director. Tonight I bring forward to you the biannual sidewalk list. Preparing to implement the program attaches a completed prioritized list based on our technical criteria, and we recommend that the work be completed in order of the prioritized list. The funding source, the Capital Project Road Program, 301-8402-541, and the project is TR 2301. In your backup, I did give you some information on the locations and the list of sidewalks. I hope you got my email today with the maps, the previous sidewalks we've done. All these sidewalks we do have on this list are all fill-ins. There's no replacements on the list except for the very bottom couple, which actually won't be done this year the way the price range. So I'm open for any questions on the list.
Let me go to the public, Mr. Function.
Sure.
Do any of the residents have any comments on this item? This is the annual sidewalk improvement plan. Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand. You'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to approve in a second, then we'll go to commissioner comments and questions.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, commissioner comments and questions. Vice Mayor Lunt, do you have anything?
I have none.
Commissioner Eisner, Commissioner Kulyas, Commissioner Kulianis. Mr. Function, the maps were very, very helpful.
Yes.
It kind of answered a question that I've had for a couple of years. I'd like to see balance in terms of where our sidewalks are being both constructed and repaired. So it looks like a nice spread.
Thank you.
And so I think y'all are doing a good job in trying to be fair with everybody.
Sure.
I know that we alternate years. Next year will be the road resurfacing, is that
Resurfacing
correct?
program next year, yes, sir.
Yeah. And so next year, if we could have a similar map on the roads that have been done in the past, and then also whatever you would recommend to have those superimposed on one map.
I can do that.
I think both maps were very helpful, but I kind of printed one and printed the other and kind of compared the two. So,
Yeah, we have the roadmap online, that you can see that now, it's active.
okay. If there's no further, yes, Commissioner Eisner.
I just wanted to thank you. I'm up pretty early in the morning, riding out there, and I see your men working at the crack of dawn. So I just want to thank you. I saw Tony this morning working on a bridge. You know, so while most of Tarpon Springs is sleeping, you guys are working. So I do want to thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. They make my job easy, so thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. All right. Next item is item 13, ethics complaint total billing cost. This is, I'm going to assume this is Commissioner Kulyas.
Yes.
Okay.
You wanna
It's,
pass these out? Okay, the reason I'm bringing this agenda item up today was not because, like I said, I'd arrived back from vacation to the displeasure of some, but there was not enough time to get this requested on the agenda, falling for the 8th. And so this was going to be brought up at the next regular session meeting, which we are here at today. And as I mentioned, I brought forth this agenda item because we are a policy-making board. When we as a board come across unprecedented situations, we must set a standard or a precedent on how future boards will handle similar matters. I also brought forth this agenda item for the sake of transparency. This word transparency seems to have frustrated a lot of people in our local government lately. And for the public to understand what was going on behind the scenes of the board and how the actions of some board members created this unique situation we find ourselves in. And so as you can see, if you look at the backup, there's all the material needed for anyone to review, the initial complaint, the response from the Commission of Ethics, me requesting to the Commission of Ethics that it be made public immediately. And so we're gonna go into a list. And then I brought the list out so people, sometimes I hear things, but when I see them in writing as I hear them, it sort of hits home and I'm able to absorb it a little bit more. So we have a fiduciary duty to the taxpayers of Tarpon Springs not to waste their money. And I also ask this board that Commissioner Eisner refrain from the discussion and not be allowed to vote on any motions made on this agenda item due to his involvement on the matter and what he may be responsible for. City Attorney, can you opine on this requested matter?
Commissioner, the voting, I agree. However, the law says that if you're an elected official, that you have the right, even if you have a conflict, to discuss the issue. But you can be precluded from voting because it would inure some kind of special gain or loss, yes. But he could still be part of the discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. So when someone breaches that duty for self-satisfaction and childish behavior, they should reimburse the taxpayers. Eisner filed an ethics complaint against me on May 18th, 2023. And I'd ask this board, does anyone on this board believe this was not a frivolous complaint? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I don't think it was frivolous.
Speak.
I do not believe it was frivolous. I sat here while you attacked Mr. Eisner, while you called him names, you slandered him, and I think that his complaint was not frivolous at all. It may not have been up to legal requirements per the ethics board because they seem to be more concerned about any possibility of financial gain. But, so maybe that's not ethical. So maybe it wasn't an ethical issue. It certainly wasn't frivolous, and it certainly wasn't, I don't know, I don't even know what to say. I'm at lots of words. I am so tired of you two picking on each other constantly. It's back and forth. It's forth and back. It's like you pick on him, he picks on you. Guys have been digging away at each other for a year. I personally am just so entirely tired of it that I'm tired of hearing about it. You two need to move on. Start acting like a responsible commissioner and operate for the city, not for your own personal thing. And since I'm talking, motion to table. Do I have a second?
I can't second.
Second.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments, but it's on the record, so it's, like I said, it's there for the people to see in Tarpon Springs. Now, the mayor held an ethics workshop on May 17th, 2023. His complaint was because he does not take criticism well, but yet there are still plenty of unanswered questions. The following day, yes, the following day, after the ethics workshop, Eisner could not contain himself and filed a frivolous ethics complaint against me. Yes, an official complaint filed with the Commission on Ethics in Tallahassee, Florida. This bullying behavior has to stop. City Attorney, would you like to opine on the actions of Mr. Eisner from the day of the ethics training to the day after him filing a complaint?
Mayor, point of order.
Go ahead, Commissioner Eisner, what is it?
Commissioner Kulias just keeps bullying me and telling me that I'm bullying, but it's truthfully Commissioner Kulias who's the one that's doing all the bullying. He, at the induction that we had here, went on for 30 minutes. I didn't even respond to him. All his accusations were lies and non-truths. None of what he said came true. None of what he said had any facts. And I am also tired of hearing this nonsense. I don't want to respond to it, but if you want me to, I'm happy to respond to any one of his things. I just don't think it'll get us anywhere. He should concentrate on trying to do what he claims he wants to do, which is work for the residents, but he doesn't. He wants to work to try to see if he can upset me, and he's not going to. Okay. It's just immature behavior.
Mr. Salzman, do you have anything to add or comment on or right now?
I mean, the only thing
discussion within our rules of procedure, within the
On the rules
guidelines.
of procedure, I mean, that, again, it's up to the majority of the board if you want to move forward on having this discussion or not. I mean, that's...
In terms of professional decorum.
Well, Mayor, I mean, we were hoping that this would, that's why we had the ethics seminar, so that things would cool down and people would not be bringing this stuff back and forth. So I don't know, but...
All right, go ahead.
Mayor, can I finish my thing?
Yes. You want
A claim was just also made that I did this for my own self-satisfaction. I want to know what self-satisfaction that was, because I did nothing for my self-satisfaction. I sat here, I let him talk, he bellowed just nothing but lies. I didn't respond to it, and I felt that is the best way to stifle him. The only thing was, at the last meeting, when Commissioner Koulianis made a comment, and he brought up the fact that I brought him up on ethics, which I felt I should do. Commissioner Koulias was the one who responded, and I responded to him. I didn't interrupt Commissioner Koulianis, I interrupted Koulias, because he said, and his quote was that they threw it out. They threw it out because there's a lot more serious things, but that's the only reason. So, but he still did what he did, and it was unethical behavior, what he did.
Okay. Let me, Commissioner Koulias, go ahead and finish up with.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. I mean, you see how the schedule's set up. So now, you know, Anna, I asked the city attorney, did you speak to him or advise him about his interest in filing this ethics complaint?
no. But I would tell you that I would tell any of the commissioners, it's general practice not to file ethics complaints against each other.
Okay, now there's been this talk about unity and how the board is divisive. My question is, How can we be united when frivolous actions are taken against one another? Now, I can work with anyone, as I have shown and proven that, but that doesn't mean I have to unite with them on a common front. Working with someone and uniting with someone are two different things. I've included the packet for each of that includes the complaint, which reads like a childish rant, the letter authorizing me to make this a public record right off the bat, and the dismissal letter from the Commission of Ethics. The complaint was dismissed as it was factually insufficient. That means his allegations were completely inadequate and frivolous. And Vice Mayor, you're more than willing to come up and speak against the Commission on Ethics if you want.
You know, the definition of factually insufficient does not include inadequate and frivolous. Look it up in a dictionary.
Vice Mayor Lund, could you speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
Please, that's okay.
I said the definition of factually insufficient does not include inadequate and frivolous.
Can you tell the people what your credentials are when it comes to ethical statures with state, local officials?
I can read a dictionary just like anybody else, Commissioner.
Okay. So, in my opinion, I believe is one of the worst articulated documents ever produced by a sitting elected official here in Tarpon Springs. My biggest concern is the individual's ability to make decisions on this board on his own after this meltdown. No investigation was even opened up. It was dismissed on its face. So before Eisner became a commissioner, he would come up to the podium and throw stones at the previous commission. Now he's up here, he chastises people for not throwing their stones at him.
Point
when
of
they
order.
Come up and exercise their
Point of
First
order.
Amendment right.
Point of order, what is the point, what is the?
Point of order is, I spoke with respect to every single time I got up here to speak. Commissioner Kulias spoke with disrespect every time he got up, and he's playing like he's Mr. Innocent. There were times I had to tell him, hey, ease down. You were being, and he asked me, was I disrespectful? And I said, yes. Holding up pictures of Mark at the Lightning game. I mean, give me a break. I mean, he's talking about me. I got up here and I was very, very respectful at all times. So his comments are just, again, his interpretation and lies.
All right, let's let Commissioner Couillard finish and then you'll have your turn. Thank you. Go ahead.
The city was forced to spend $675 with their attorneys on this frivolous ethics complaint that Eisner filed the day after going to our ethics seminar. Mr. Eisner states he ran for office not because of the money, but because he loves the town. So the money paid to him in salary is not much, as Eisner has stated. He obviously didn't learn anything at this workshop, this seminar. Mayor, do you think we need to have another workshop? Sure, you will hear from our attorney that there are ways for ethics commissions to recoup their money spent on this case, but it was never investigated. It was dropped on its face. The research was taken and the time was taken to look into this conflict of interest that was created. The attorney charged the city for research and not legal representation. We must set a precedent. The conflict of interest our attorney was faced with because of the actions of Eisner caused unnecessary time and research spent to research a commissioner filing an ethics complaint on another commissioner. She clearly describes the unique situation we are in the memo she wrote to the mayor that is in our backup. This behavior will continue by this individual and others who will weaponize their position when facing criticism by another member of the board. Mayor, it will not stop until this behavior is addressed with financial responsibility the taxpayers of Tarpon Springs should not be burdened with. Just like Eisner noted, when Mr. Carr had an ethics complaint filed against him, Eisner wanted Mr. Carr to pay for the attorney fees that the city expended in defending him. Those were notes produced by Eisner during a regular session board meeting. This is provided in his notes, and during the meeting, he addressed Trass's travel time. When you file frivolous complaints, you should reimburse the taxpayers of Tarpon Springs. Elected officials are not supposed to weaponize their position towards any resident, staff member, and board member. If this board does not set a precedent on this frivolous behavior, then we are signaling to the residents we condone this behavior from Tarpon Springs elected officials. This is about taxpayers not being given the burden of childish behavior or bullying individuals by an elected official who weaponizes their position in office. And it's another reason we talk about how some of these commissioners come up here and say, I didn't answer any questions, or they didn't have to answer any questions, but hey, there's a big reason why we're moving to the first and third Tuesdays of the year now for regular session. And I won't get into that unless I need to. But that's what transparency is about. It's about moving away from any perceptions, any ability for people not to answer questions in the most truthful way possible. And that's the type of changes that are happening here. And so, as mentioned, we had the ethics training. Mr. Eisner couldn't contain himself to file a complaint in which he swore an oath on. And if you look at it, it looks like a child wrote it with the scribbles in it. And that was submitted. And now this board is going to have to make a decision. Are you going to allow commissioners to weaponize their position that helped create a conflict of interest in which city attorneys wouldn't be able to represent the other elected officials? And are you going to allow this behavior to where the citizens of Tarpon Springs have to foot the bill for it being frivolous? And that was from the Commission of Ethics. I don't need any commissioner. Their opinion doesn't mean nothing to me. The Commission of Ethics is the one who makes that decision. So we're going to wait to hear some discussion, and I will be making a motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Eisner, do you have any rebuttal?
I do. This is from Regina Kardish, and it said, I did not provide Commissioner Kulias any representation on his complaint specifically, only to advise him that I reviewed everything and I was precluded from representing him in this circumstance. So it was Commissioner Kulias. I apologize if I use your name. I'm just letting you know that. It was Commissioner Kulias, which he doesn't even have the decency to address me as Commissioner Eisner, did a complete attack on me, okay? And my response to him is he's now asking me to pay for attorney fees that he created. He did not have to ask either one of our city attorneys for their advice. He could have hired a private attorney and done whatever he wanted to do. If you want me to pay that $675, okay, then I want you to pay for all of the time of the attorney's fees that you consumed bothering everybody about asking our attorney here, Mr. Salzman, about ex parte communication, about setting up the workshop. You blew thousands of dollars of wasted taxpayer money and you spoke with Mark, you spoke with everybody. And everybody said to you there was nothing done, but that wasn't good enough for you. So if you want to talk about immature behavior, you put your foot down and said, I'm not even going to the meeting unless we get to talk about this. I've never done anything like that. For someone like you that has a track record like you have, and I have no track record in New York as a Northeasterner, and I have no track record here. But you have quite the track record for telling long tales, and you're continuing to do it. I thought you grew up the first year that you were up on this dais, but you're proving to me, the board, and the residents that you don't have that. This 675 means so much to you, or so much to the residents? No, you're just looking to pick, and you'll continue to do so until someone stifles you and has a resolution to shut you up. That's what you need. And I don't understand why you want to play this game. Instead of spending our time to move this city forward, you want to spend the time tearing this down. All I hear from you is that we have lawsuits coming, and you lied and said that I was removed from 3 Rotary clubs. It's a lie. I resigned. And I have the resignation letters if you'd like to see them. But I don't even care whether you think so or not. You made everything that you said was a lie. Everything. And you stick to it because that's what your life has been, a lie. So I don't understand what you want to do. You want to continue this? Do it. I'm not paying because you want to ask our attorneys to handle your case. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to pay for all the time you waste asking questions. I've tried to help you out. I cared for you. You don't want it? That's fine. You don't have to be my friend. But we need to work together up here for these people. Not to fight, but I don't know if you've ever grown up.
Okay,
Oh, I'd like to have a rebuttal. There's been
let
some.
me just go through the commission. Vice Mayor Lunt.
You know, I've said this already. I'm actually embarrassed for the both of you, not just you. I'm embarrassed for both of you who keep picking at each other, and I don't know what to say to the community. It's like, it's an embarrassing situation. Both of you need to learn to grow up and drop this. You may not agree on anything. That doesn't matter. You're here to represent the city, not your individual complaints against each other. And you can't bury it under, well, I was just joking about this, or in your case, you can't bury it under transparency and tarponites and stuff like that. This is your vendetta against Eisner. It's Eisner's response and his vendetta against you. And quite frankly, this is just incomprehensible that we have to continue to hear this month after month after month. Grow up, drop it, represent the city. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Commissioner Koulianis.
I don't think we need to tell Commissioner Koulias to grow up. I mean, he's an elected official, and I don't think that's necessary. Talking about the actual issue here, if for us to determine, we don't want to encourage frivolous complaints filed against each other. And if the city incurs money, you'd want that, you know, one side of me says, yeah, we should have reimbursement if it's frivolous. However, who determines frivolous? We can't determine frivolous. The Board of Ethics can choose to deal with whatever complaints they want to deal with. We don't determine that, and again, we don't always, I mean, they can say, okay, we don't think there was grounds, but it's a slippery slope for us to try to determine what's frivolous and then ask commissioners to pay things back. So in that case, I wouldn't be I'd be in opposition to, you know, asking any commissioner to have to pay money back. However, I'd prefer if we could have some other avenue for resolution. You know, maybe some of these things have a personal nature to them. They're not necessarily talking about an issue, something we vote on. These are kind of, again, personal things that now, I think that and I think the Vice Mayor is correct, that there's enough blame to go back and forth, and it's not just on Commissioner Koulias, and it's not just on Commissioner Eisner. You know, and I don't think anybody would say that this board, I wasn't sitting here, but that this board was completely fair to Commissioner Carr. talking about whether he wears a jacket or whether, things of that nature. So I think we've had enough. I'm with the vice mayor that we've had enough. Now, none of us have time machines. We can't go back and change things we've said or done, but we do have some personal self-control going forward. There's not anything that I've ever said that if I look back, I wouldn't have changed a word here or there and done something different. That's just human nature. But we do have, this board has about another year and a half left of service, and we can either choose to move forward dignified and try to do what's best for the community, or we can continue to have all the turmoil that we seem to have to this point. Again, we don't have time machines, we can't go back, but we do have control of what we do going forward. And I don't think, again, telling a commissioner to grow up today, I think that just compounds problems. I don't think that's necessary, but I wouldn't necessarily be in favor of requesting a reimbursement for anybody, because I don't think we can determine frivolous. Thank you.
Okay. It's for me, it's one of these things that it's really hard to talk about. I know what needs to be done, and I'm actually quite disappointed in the commission right now in a variety of different ways. I think we could do much better, and certainly this isn't what the residents want in terms of providing service to them, and certainly representation. There's not much I can say. Each commissioner was elected to hold office. They, as you heard Mr. Salzman, they can speak their piece, they can do what they want. I quite frankly, one thing is you could use the word frivolous. That means something about somebody doing something. There's another thing that's called retaliatory. There's quite a bit of retaliation going on up here as well. One person does one thing and then the other person has to retaliate, then they retaliate, and it goes forward. And it's going to be up to each individual commissioner to basically maybe search themselves as far as deciding how they can do better. If they believe if what they're doing is not good, and maybe they could figure out how they do better. I can't personally counsel any of the commissioners because there's a sunshine law. I don't know what to do. Maybe y'all could seek some advice, maybe with the individual attorneys, maybe to kind of help. I know that it was the attorney's hope that when we had that workshop, that that would help in terms of squelching a lot of the nitpicking and backbiting and things like that have been going on. And I think that maybe helped a little bit, maybe for those that were receptive to the ideas, but I think that more needs to be done. As far as reimbursement of cost, you can look at the invoices. I call the attorneys, they charge for taking my telephone call, and I ask them questions. And is it frivolous? I don't think it's frivolous, but I still eat up attorney's fees. I think any of you commissioners have called the attorneys and asked their opinion. They don't answer the phone and talk to you for free. They charge. And so anytime you think it's of something of importance, I think it's your responsibility to go ahead and call the attorney, which means that we run up a tab. Now, with regard to the fee that is in the invoice for Mrs. Kardash, that was basically research in terms of her being able to provide representation, and she says it's a very unique situation in terms of anything that she's seen, and obviously she didn't have an answer off the top of her head, or else she probably wouldn't have charged us the amount of time for research. But she had to research it to provide the correct answer to whoever she spoke to. And I think that, I think she shared information with one or two commissioners. I don't know, I didn't speak to her about that until I actually saw the invoice, and that was the end of that on that one. I know that there was some other issues, loose ends, that she had asked that I don't quite recall her response about Mr. Salzman maybe looking into it. I don't know. But I want to hear from him after I'm done, and then we can go back to Commissioner Couillard for what he wants to do, and then again back to Commissioner Eisner. So that's all I've got to say. I'm not for making anybody reimburse fees. I mean, we spend money on the attorneys. If it's, we have a resolution that covers our expenses. If we do hire an attorney and they provide defense for us, and the ruling on an ethics complaint is there's no probable cause, or it doesn't reach legal sufficiency, and whatever money is spent, the city repays that, or else in some particular cases, the city attorney would provide that defense. That's our resolution. That's for any public official. And if you notice Mrs. Kardash's email, it doesn't reference specifically commissioners. It talks about in terms of public officials, department heads, city attorneys, city clerks, internal auditor, et cetera, in addition to the city commission. So that's my position on this. Mr. Salzman, I want to hear from you if there's any follow-up to Mrs. Kardash's email as far as what your thoughts are on reimbursement, and also whether, in fact, you can get anybody to pay under the state statutes.
Well, I think this was brought up as a unique situation. I think that's where Regina looked at it, and that's obviously the reference, because I haven't seen any situation like this before. And I've represented many people, and I'm currently representing people in front of the Commission on Ethics. Normally, it's exactly how you said, Mayor. It is normally when either an elected official or some official from a government agency has been had an ethics complaint against them. There are two ways of doing it. The usual way is that person ends up hiring an attorney, defending themselves, and if they are exonerated or the charges are dropped, they come back to the municipality or government agency and ask to be reimbursed. The board makes a determination based on some case law, and that reimbursement occurs. There have been the situation, and I've been an attorney that was hired by a government agency to defend a particular individual. The uniqueness here is that it's commissioners against commissioners bringing that forward. That is not something you normally see. I've only seen it a handful of times. I'm actually handling one right now with one commissioner brought allegations against the rest of the board, which is very different. But, so this is a very unique situation. I would only say to you that, and I know Regina's the one who's been handling this, if you are going to do something, if you are going to adopt a policy, you have to think it through as your policy, because there's a lot of issues there. What if you vote that somebody needs to reimburse and they don't? What occurs in that situation? So you have to look into some of the contingencies on it. But it's something I've never seen before, where it's been the use of the city attorney. Now, in this case, as Regina, I think, said in her email, that she researched the issue and didn't give any legal advice on this particular area, which is the appropriate thing, same thing that I would have done had somebody contacted me, because it's not appropriate when you have two commissioners to have the city attorney act in that capacity. So it is a unique situation. Just on a bigger scale, as was kind of mentioned, we were certainly hoping after the ethics seminar that everybody would calm down and just try to work together. I think as the vice mayor put it all out there, that you all have to work together. So it's somewhat difficult, and we're hoping that you all will get past these things.
Okay, before I leave Mr. Salzman, does any commissioner have a question for Mr. Salzman?
No, but we may need public comments.
We're going to go to public comments. Any?
Not for Mr. Salzman, no.
Anything?
Mr.
Okay.
Salzman, so.
Commissioner Couillard, do you want to?
Yes, sir. As you stated, this was a unique situation. and you've stated that you haven't really come across this issue.
I haven't seen it. I know you all had something with Commissioner Carr before I got here, but I've never seen this before.
So this is an unprecedented situation for the city.
Unless you all have dealt with it before, it's unique for me.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to public comments. Are there any public comments on this matter from anyone?
Katie Taylor, 1991 Douglas Lane, Tarpon Springs, Florida. A few months back, when I first started coming to commissioners' meetings, Commissioner Koulias read a very long letter, about 5 or 6 pages, and it was really very, very detailed. And it was just against the 2 gentlemen here, which is 2 men bumping heads. But then part of the letter addressed Mr. Eisner's wife. Then Mr. Eisner's wife came to this chamber, and she read her rebuttal, and then she asked for an apology. I can understand you gentlemen bickering and whatever y'all have to do. Maybe y'all need to have some kind of counseling, somebody talk to y'all together, get it squashed. Because we only have 4 minutes up here as citizens. When we step up here, we only get 4 minutes. I see y'all talking almost 30 minutes on the same subject that's been happening 4 or 5 months ago. So I would like to see y'all come together, work it out, because y'all should be able to agree to disagree and respect each other, especially in front of us. But I would like to ask that Mr. Koulias, with all due respect to you, please give Mr. Eisner's wife an apology, because as a lady, I thought that was kind of hard to hear that comment about her. So that's the only thing. Y'all can fight it out. I'll sit back here and eat my popcorn, but I would like to see something addressed to Mrs. Eisner as a woman. So that's all I have to ask. But good luck to you, and please, y'all work it out, because you're all being watched. It's all over YouTube, everywhere else. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Taylor. Are there any other public comments here from anyone sitting here in the audience? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do have raised hands, so I'll allow the first person in. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Utilacus 514 Ashland Avenue. Well, guys, I know y'all, and it's just giving the city a black eye. Y'all got to find some way to talk it out or work it out, because all we're going to do is get another article from Tracy, bad-mouthing Tarpon, and you're not getting on with things that are more important. And you're giving litigants on the other side, i.e. Trastano, Loeb and Company, more ammunition and more fodder to use against the city. So I don't know what needs to be done, but I do feel that y'all need to find some way to work it out and not on the public diet. Work it out and find a way to come to a compromise, a truce, something, so you both can move on to handle the more important things that are coming our way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr.
And
Jump.
we do have another raised hand. I'll allow the next person in.
Okay.
Juliana Day, 413 East Oakwood Street. Hear me. I feel that the comments are personal. And that this should have been done more on a one-on-one. And that the mayor, you have a gavel and you need to use it more.
Mr. Jump, did we lose Ms. Day?
She seems to be having some kind of difficulty. I'm not sure if she is still on. If you are there.
I'm still on. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. My thing was that I'm listening to what's going on on the dais there with the two gentlemen and the commissioners. The personal business need to be addressed, not on the dais, because we as a city, like you were saying before, are on the front line. And if this business that we are discussing something that's previously happened in the years ago, why wasn't it brought up then if there is a problem? And to the mayor, you are in control of the gavel. Please use it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Day. Commissioner Eisner, you've got your light on. Do you have anything?
I do. You know, I had listened for probably 20 minutes or 30 minutes to pure slander of my wife, pure slander of me, just a slew of things that I don't want to go into. I have no joy in responding to any of the comments that he's made. I didn't start this. I don't want to finish it. I want to end it. And truthfully, I'm just in a position where every 2 weeks, I've gotten comments, I'm eating candy. I've gotten comments, I slouch in my seat. I've gotten comments, I wear Christmas lights disrespectfully. I mean, when does it stop? Commissioner Koulias is defending Carr, who's not here. He voted to put my wife in, and then he broke our rules of procedure and screamed, I want her to resign. Well, it's not the commission to ask any volunteer board member to resign. It's a vote that's 3 to 5, 3 out of the 5. So he's been just nothing but disrespectful. I don't know how you people would accept having your other half. He's not a married person. If you attack my wife, you're attacking me. I let it all go. I was called a Russian Bolshevik communist. I've been called a nor'easter, a northeaster, whatever these nasty comments that he's made at me. The only comment I've made back to him is this is not the behavior I want to deal with. And I apologize that, Vice Mayor, I apologize for any comment I've made that's derogatory, that you did not appreciate, and that goes for everybody. I don't want to be in this spitting contest, but we went from 3 days of this person being in the hospital and me visiting him to the day 4, I hate you and I hate your wife, and you just popped out of the sky. So if anybody here were to get this kind of ridicule and screaming that my wife is my conduit and all these kinds of things, how do you respond to that? I've got to sit here, if that's what people want, I'll sit here and just let him bellow whatever he wants to bellow. I could do that and just ignore him. I have no issues with him, okay? He has issues with me. He started this, and he's continuing it. And he's running up bills for the attorneys and wasting everyone's time. I'm happy to take this all and throw it to the curb. I have no issues with him. He has issues with me. And regardless what we decide, I would believe he will continue this because he has some sort of agenda item that none of us know, but he knows. Because there's no reason that people just pull this out of the sky. I mean, for somebody to wear Christmas lights and him to pick on it is ridiculous. So I have nothing else I really care to share on this. I'm willing to drop it. I agree with Commissioner Koulianis. I agree with the mayor. I'm not looking to precipitate this argument. I feel like I should apologize, and I apologize to you for having to listen to all this. But I'm just defending the nasty, arrogant comments that are coming my way. Most of the time, I just let them talk. That's all I want to say.
Okay. If there's no other commissioner comments
No, I have to do my little rebuttal, or we're gonna get it out the way, and that's the whole point we wanted to. We wanted to get it hashed out in a meeting, that way we can all move forward and put on an agenda, which it was light today. And, hey, when you file an official complaint, it's an official complaint, okay? And the frustrating part is we had to keep silent until I made it public. And the city attorney's brought up many times, it's a very unique situation, unprecedented. And as far as being accused of tabs, I brought a tab. I brought a bill showing the amount of money that was spent and research into this situation. And what triggered it was the conflict of interest, as I stated before. And I was also, by Vice Mayor, growing up. You know what the biggest disappointment about this board was this whole time? That the wise men, the senior leadership on this board, have failed to address some of the behaviors of Mr. Eisner, from the lights, from the snack eating, to where it's gotten to this point. And that's why the mayor's smiling right now, because nobody wanted to address it. We had to create a mute button. That way we could hide the snacking going on. We never had the mute button before. And so, you talk about growing up. I'm truthful up here. I go to sleep really good at night when I tell people what's on my heart and when I know what's on the citizen's heart. So believe me, the little group up here you want to come support, you should. You should come support in every way. But there's a lot of support out there, I'll tell you that. There's a lot, and I don't need to round up the troops. And as far as I think
I'm
should be
sorry,
no
what's going
comment
on?
from-
No comment, please, no comment. But, I'm sorry, what's going on? Somebody's yelling?
Yes.
And unfortunately, everything's taken out of context in society these days. People really don't understand what threats are, and I get it. People just don't really understand. And so, with that said, it was an embarrassment to file a complaint with the Commission on Ethics. And to do it the day after the ethics training, that was a disrespect to the mayor directly, who helped put this all together. And so, we talk about frivolous. It's not up for any of you to decide what frivolous was, but the Commission on Ethics definitely decided. And some of you can sit there and scream and howl over the top when it becomes an agenda item that you want to get your popularity in, but you looked really wrong in that situation. And what you're doing is condoning frivolous behavior. And I don't know why you guys continue to allow it. I don't know if he's holding something over one of your heads, you're coddling him, putting him under your wing, but it seems that this behavior isn't going to get addressed until someone like myself addresses it. And as far as track record, I've been through more in life than everybody on this board. And I'll tell you what, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of where I came from. I'm proud of how I grew up. I'm proud of the adversity that helped forge me into who I am today. That adversity that helped get so many of you involved. And so as we talk about track record, everyone needs to look at themselves, especially the elected officials. And so we're going to decide what the precedent's going to be. Either we're going to allow frivolous behavior by these educated commissioners, or we're going to put a stance to it. So I want to thank you all for being here, and I'm very proud to be who I am, where I came from, and anything I've gone through in life. including those who don't want to admit what they've experienced on their end as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, is there,
7:35.
pardon me?
It's 7:35.
I know, I just wanted to know whether is there anything that we go from here?
Can I just make one more comment quickly?
Very briefly,
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner.
There's no place on here that this says this is frivolous. No place. It just, so I don't know where he's coming up with this, that it's frivolous. They just didn't want to entertain it because there was nothing for me to gain. That was the bottom line. And the rest of what he's got to say, like I said, I'm happy to move forward. He will not.
All right, is there,
Just like we said, it's always playing the victim, and yeah, we're moving forward, but if we didn't bring this out tonight, how are you gonna move forward?
okay.
How are you gonna sit there and
let's
address these issues?
Stop. Commissioner comments. That ought to make Ms. Day happy. Is there any motion, or is that the end of it?
I make a motion that Commissioner Iser pays the $675 in research fees within a 30-day period back to the city of Tarpon Springs and the taxpayers of Tarpon Springs.
Is there a second? The motion dies for lack of second. I would like one thing to, and I don't know that it needs to be a motion, but I would like for the city manager to get, the city manager's in charge of the agenda. And I would like for the city manager to get with the attorneys in terms of our rules of procedure. Right now, any commissioner has the ability to put any policy agenda item on the agenda, and I believe that that should be done. But it's another thing to make it a policy item or something that is more of a personal issue than a policy item. And I'm not sure how to make that distinction. But right now, the city manager has no choice, but when he gets a request from a commissioner to put that policy item on there, regardless of what it is or anything. And I don't know if there's any interest from the commission to do that. If you don't have any interest, then we'll just leave it at that. But I think that's part of the issue of expending time up here the way we did this evening. And I'd like to hear just down the line, Vice Mayor Lund, do you have any interest in that? If not, that's okay. Not tonight, right?
Yeah, not tonight.
Okay, Commissioner Eisner.
Just think if it's a agenda item and the city manager feels it's not worthy, he should go and get a 3-member vote to see if it should go forward. I mean,
No.
You can't do that.
But anyway, that's okay. Well, let me just, Commissioner Couillard, do you have anything?
Yeah, the bottom line, this was a policy-making decision. Yeah, you can tie it into being personal, but when it happens to one of you, then you're gonna see what's gonna happen. Or when it happens to future people on this board, then we're gonna see what the policy is. But you've really sat here and condoned frivolous behavior.
Okay, Commissioner Koulianis, do you have anything?
No, I don't think we should limit
Okay.
agenda items, and
All right.
I think that this agenda item had legitimacy to it in the sense that it's a question about reimbursement. Obviously it regressed into something far worse than just talking about the issue. But I don't think that we should limit commissioners being able to put things on the agenda.
Mayor, can I just comment?
Yes, go ahead.
You know, this evening was a perfect example. If the board didn't want to discuss this, there was a motion to table. There was not a second. So that's how many times you deal with it. It puts the city manager in a really tough position to have to pick and choose what to put on the agenda in that situation. He works for all 5 of you, and you can't really put him in that situation. We could look, if at some other point down the road, if you want to look at some procedural aspects of that, that's up to the board. But I think the way to handle it is how it was handled tonight. If the majority of the board didn't want to hear it, you would have tabled it.
the one thing that I want to be clear, and I guess I'm just trying to seek some help here. Ms. Day mentioned, and I think I've heard those comments before, that I should gavel people down more often. But that's why I've turned to the city attorney and asked him whether we've exceeded professional decorum or have gone through some rules of procedure that we haven't, and he says we haven't broken anything. So I really don't have the ability to gavel anybody down. And unless there's some really, and I know there's words, the word used tonight was slanderous and slanderous comments made and things like that. I guess it all falls back to individual commissioners that are just going to have to exercise their own judgment and just be considerate of who they're talking about, to try and stick to the point of what the policy issue is, rather than making it more of a, in my opinion, more of a personal issue, which I believe is what it was this evening. So if there's nothing else, then I'm going to go ahead and move to the ordinances and resolutions. Does anybody need a break? I think we just need to move on with these things. They shouldn't go long. Okay, ordinances and resolutions, item 14, Dixie Highway land use and rezoning, second reading. Mr. Salzman, if you could read the, actually ordinance 2020, there's two parts to this. There's the ordinance 2023-03 and 2023-04. The second one is quasi-judicial. So I guess we need to do quasi-judicial. Okay, so we'll combine both of them in the quasi-judicial process. Mr. Salzman, if you can read the procedures for the quasi-judicial procedure, and then swear anybody in that is here as to provide testimony.
This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Commissioners acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. If anyone's going to testify, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony before the board shall be the truth, so help you?
Okay, Mr. Salzman, if you could read ordinance 2023-04 by title, please.
4 or 3? Do you want me to read
4
3
is the
first?
quasi-judicial.
Okay.
If you want to read both of them, usually we do the quasi-judicial, and then we do the second one is.
That's why I would.
I think we can just do one presentation and then just have 2 votes. I think would be the easiest thing to do.
4 then.
04, yes, please.
Ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Tarpon Springs for 1.06 acres, more or less, of real property located on the south side of Dixie Highway, approximately 400 feet east of North Pinellas Avenue, from RM 15 residential multifamily to zoning designation PSP, public semi-public, providing for findings, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Ms. Vincent.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. Both of these ordinances are for the same piece of property. This is city-owned property where we have some of our public works facilities or utility facilities, the lift station, the RO, brine injection well, and some offices and storage. The property's on south side of Dixie Highway. It's about 1 acre.
Ms. Vincent, let me just interrupt a second. I just need to ask, any commissioners have any ex parte communications? It's the city issue, so, and then any conflicts of interest? Okay, thank you. Please proceed, Ms. Vincent.
Again, so these are second readings. You have the land use, which we'll hear second, but you did review the rezoning on first reading on May 9th, and the land use was reviewed on May 23rd. And we had to wait until it went to the Countywide Planning Authority on the land use to change the countywide plan. That occurred on August 1st. They did approve that, so now we're back for second readings. There's no other new information on either the land use or the zoning to enter into the record. I would enter, so the land use change is to, excuse me, we're doing the zoning first, sorry. The zoning is to change the current zoning from RM to public, semi-public. And then the land use change is from residential medium to transportation utility. So I'll stop there and answer any questions. Again, these are second readings, so there's really nothing new to add to the record.
Okay, any comments or questions from Ms. Vincent? Okay.
That's pretty much it. Or the applicant, so.
Right. We are the applicant
We
as
are the
well.
applicant, yes, sir.
Okay, okay, so would you like your presentation read into the, or accepted into the record for evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me go to public comments. Are there any public comments on this item? Or I'm sorry, let me go to the commission. You had none, so we're going to truncate this process. Are there any public comments concerning this item? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Does the commission, I guess we're at the point of making a motion and a second? And then if there's any comments or discussion on that.
It's motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any comments from the commission? Discussion? Roll call, please.
This is for ordinance 2023-03. This was advertised in the Tampa Bay Times by title only with a map on April 17th and on August 9th.
This is 04.
04, yeah.
You did 04 first?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The advertisement was done in the Tampa Bay Times by title only with a map on March 29th and August 9th. Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, is there a, I'd like Mr. Salzman, if you could read ordinance 2023-03 by title, please.
Ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the future land use map for 1.0 acres more or less of real property located on the south side of Dixie Highway, approximately 400 feet east of North Pinellas Avenue, from land use designation RM, residential medium, to land use designation TU, transportation utility, providing for findings, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent herewith, and providing an effective date. And I failed to tell you before the legal advertising, so I don't want Irene to yell at me. It was advertised on April 19th, 2023, and August 9th, 2023.
Okay. Let me ask the public, do you have any public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, are there any public or remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item? If there's nothing, we have a motion to approve in a second.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2023-03.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Item 15, Resolution 2023-29. Mr. Salzman, if you could read that by title.
Resolution 2023-29, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, authorizing changes in the Department, Organization of Building Development, Cultural and Civic Services, Human Resources, Planning and Zoning, Police, Golf Course Division of Public Services and Public Works, including the addition of positions, reclassification and regrading of positions, revision of job descriptions, and providing for an effective date hereof.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? Mr. Jump, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay. Commissioner comments, questions? Vice Mayor Lunt.
Yeah, the only sort of query I have about this all is, I understand what we're doing. Is it in our 24 budget that we can do this? Is that a yes?
Yes, I mean, everybody wonders a lot of times during the years why we do this last. You had budget sessions. First of all, we need to wait and see what the market is. We don't know what the other cities are doing, so we have to wait. We also have to see Ron Herring and have a good idea from you in all the budget meetings what our budget's gonna look like to see what we have the money to do. And then when we come to this and we have a situation that happened, which is kind of unique this year, before we go to you, luckily we had enough time. This all changed the beginning of August. We had things set, we were ready to go, we were funded, we were all set. And then we found out the beginning of August of the county and Largo's position to move to $18 an hour away from the 50. If you remember, we had a 5-year plan to move to $15 an hour. We did that in 4 years, and we got there. So this was the year we were breathing, we were a year early, and then this criteria hit. With all the other cities around, okay, it's gonna be the scramble to see. So the next thing we had to do is go to Ron and see what we could do, where we had the money to fund some of these extra things. And, you know, surprisingly, we were in a better place than we thought we were because of the last 4 years of doing the graduated ranges. So we didn't have great compression issues. We didn't have as many people off as we thought, but it was still a financial situation. And that was a situation where Ron, and before I could come to you with this, there needed to be the money without any sacrifices. And again, Ron will be here if you want to explain, but we were comfortable. He found the money to fund all this, and the graduated 8.5 to 5. Again, originally this was going to be 5% across the board, which changed. But that amount of money to do these, and some of the organizations, especially dealing with moving the public works, the attention of this budget, and it kind of included the lower positions and needed to move the salaries, was in public works. All that money was found without sacrifice by Ron, and that enabled us to bring it forward, because otherwise I'd have brought it forward and tell you what we had to sacrifice, what we had to sacrifice for it. So we're able to do this. I can tell you, right now we've got a 2 or 3 year plan to get to the $18 an hour, which is probably going to be consistent with the other cities who's got to scramble. It's not as easy as moving, just like with the $15 an hour. You can't just move everybody to 18 because you caused the worst compression of position. I mean, we're still trying to get out of the compression, some compression issues over the 4 years. We did it well, and there's very little, but you can't just compress it. So it has to be a gradual, and you can't just move the $15 an hour people. You need to move everybody along the way so there's an evenness. So I can tell you, this is probably, what you're seeing here is probably the 10th version. And I'll give Ron credit. Ron came up with this 10th version of the 8.5 to 5. And because every time you come up with a version, you got to put everybody's salary in a spreadsheet. Where are you jumping people over other people. It's a long process, but this process enables us to do that. And by the next 2 years, we'll be able to reach that goal. The county administrator made an impassioned thing why he was forced to do that, and Largo to do that. Obviously, everybody knows, whether it's groceries or whatever it is, the need to do it. So we were able to do it. Ron was able to find it in the budget to enable it to go through. And that's why we're able to bring that tonight, or we'd brought you something else where we've got a dilemma and we might need to, this board would be the decision. Do we cut something else to do this? Do we scale this down? But Ron was able to be able to come to this meeting and affirm to you that the money is found and we can do it. And I think it's a great plan for our employees moving forward, to be fair, keep them competitive to what's going on, and not fall behind in those positions, and the toughness that it is to hire those positions of a lower pay grade. They're getting just as tough as the higher positions right now. So to keep us in there, to get the good people that you see, we were able to do it, and we're able to fund it without hurting your other portions of the budget that you spent those in our 3 budget hearings devising. We are able to do that and bring that forward to you.
All right, thank you for ratification. No more questions for me.
Anybody else? Commissioner Koulianis?
Yeah. We want to, obviously, we value our employees, that, just like Commissioner Eisner was saying to Mr. Funchin about the guys working hard. We want to move as quickly as we can to increase wages so people can live a living wage. $15 is a tough life. The sooner we can get to 18 and farther, and have opportunities for our employees to move up the ladder, so that they can have living wages that they can actually afford to live in our city. So I'm pleased that we're able to, now that we have a year where our assessed values of properties is up and we have extra revenue, to be able to raise our employees' compensation and get moving towards getting closer to that, to people having a living wage. I want to, again, always commend my friend Ron Herring. I know he works tirelessly to, especially this time of the year, to push the pencil and make everything balance. And I know he works really hard, and obviously our city manager who makes everything go. And so he knows how I feel about him. So thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm just glad we can move forward, continuing to bump this up along the way, and I guess you could take a big jump, but I think slow's good in this particular case, so we'll eventually get there. If there's no other, did we get a motion and a second yet? Is there a motion and a second? Is there a
moved.
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay. Did you get that, Ms.
I did.
Jacobs? Okay. If there's no further comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Koulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, item 16, Resolution 2023-25, Rules of Procedure. Mr. Salzman, if you could read it by title.
Resolution 2023-25, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, revising the rules of procedure for the Board of Commissioners, repealing all resolutions in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? Mr. Jumper, are there any remote access public comments?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we'll go to discussion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any comments from the commission? Yes, go ahead.
So one comment I have is, there is no, how do we deal with issues when they come up? Would that be board decisions? Would there be any sort of penalties, for breaking these things? That's one question I had. And then, I'm happy to see this social media, policy in here, but there is a part, and believe me, I do not want to bring this up as to continue what we had, but this was brought up to me, that there was a commissioner that posted their opinion on annexing, and
I think that would be a question for Mr. Salzman if.
you want to read this?
Individual commissioners can make their positions known as long as they're not communicating with fellow commissioners or they're not speaking on behalf of the city as a whole. I mean, you can't speak unless the commission has voted or said you are authorized to do that.
Well, my question is, it says that unless you declare that this is your personal opinion, and that doesn't say that. That's why I'm asking this.
I mean, I guess I would always say it's nice to just clarify that it's your personal opinion.
So my only comment would be, if any commissioner would want to put something out there, to please, so that we don't have any problems, say that it's your own personal and individual comment. I personally am not posting anything anymore. I'm done. So that's I'll post about flowers and my kids and everything else. So that's it.
Well, thank you. Vice Mayor Lunt, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments / corrections. They're both in the social media policy. First, section 9, subsection B, where it says, nor may an elected official remotely access any city-owned and maintained database on any device that has a prohibited application. Many of the city's databases, our GIS database, our permits database, et cetera, are public. I don't know if that particular clause is legal, and if it is legal, I'm not quite sure how it could be enforced. I'm not sure who wrote this either, but.
Right.
I didn't write this policy, so.
Attorney Kardash wrote.
Yeah, you may want to bring this forward
Why don't you,
with Regina, because
Okay.
I didn't draft this.
do you want to follow up with her on one-on-one?
I will follow up on her. However, we need to approve this tonight, and following up with her isn't going to allow that to be changed. Then it will just be before us again.
If you'd like to, you made the motion, right?
I did.
Who did?
I
You
think I
made the
did.
motion. Well, you could amend it to hold that one in abeyance.
Yeah.
And go ahead and approve the resolution with the exception of that one provision.
Okay, yeah, I have another one as well.
Would you consider amending your
Is
motion?
it in the same policy?
Yes.
Well, let me hear both of his things before okay?
Can I continue to talk? Okay, so in section C, there is the last line on the first page, reads, posting materials that could be construed as malicious, obscene, or threatening, or that might constitute harassment or bullying, period. That sentence in and of itself doesn't mean anything. There's no adverb, there's no adjective, there's no anything, so
It's
it's
prohibited,
incomplete.
right.
Is it prohibited?
Well,
Is
right.
it subject to anything? It's just,
You may want to just pull the policy and wait.
I'd like to have a talk with,
Ms. Kardash.
with Ms. Kardashian.
Because I think there needs to be an explanation of the social media policy for the board to be comfortable and answer these questions.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sign off on this because it's
So are we gonna,
just,
I would.
Defer this item
Yes,
to later.
I would recommend that the board defer this item until your next meeting.
So let me rescind my motion and put a motion to table this to a. Defer, I'm sorry, defer to a further date.
September 5th.
September 5th is fine.
Second.
Okay, second, okay. Are there any further comments?
Yes, I'd like to consider maybe in the future, as we saw a couple meetings, there are agenda items that get heated where some additional time may be needed without having to forcefully remove people from the room. And I'd like to be able to see maybe to the mayor's discretion on some of those agenda items, alter public speaking minutes when it becomes.
Say it again. I tentatively, just speak a little louder into this.
I'd like for the mayor to be able to have the ability to extend minutes to, on certain topics that are more sensitive than others, as we've seen recently where we've had people escorted out of the building again, and that's something to consider. It would be good because there's times we've seen people come up and speak out of turn anyways, but not get, removed. So I just like to maybe consider having the mayor's discretion on allowing additional minutes on certain agenda items.
Yeah, you can, obviously you could propose something or work with something with Ms. Kardash and,
Okay.
and bring it forward. I guess that would be a policy thing, a fair policy matter to bring forward. So, and then the entire commission could discuss that.
Sure.
Is that, okay. So, go ahead.
I didn't really see anybody escorted out of the room. I know that the chief went and spoke to people about,
It's okay.
yeah,
I
that's all I
understand.
saw.
I understand what
Okay.
Commissioner Koulias is talking about. I don't want to go any further with that. If there's no other comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Does that do it, Ms. Jacobs, for the agenda?
I'm sorry?
Does that end the agenda?
It does.
Okay. Let's go to board and staff comments. Vice Mayor Lunt, do you have anything?
I do. First, I want to publicly recognize the passing of Richard Beckel. He was a teacher here in Tarpon Springs.
Pass away.
He passed away just recently. He's been in Greece for some time now, but he always watched our meetings and always commented to me on them. He's been a good friend to me, and I didn't grow up in Tarpon Springs, so I'm not sure who knew him, but my greatest condolences to his family, and may his memory be eternal. The other comment I had a couple of weeks off just to sort of think about what was going on here. And actually to watch our last meeting a couple of times. It did not go well, obviously. One of the things that occurred there, however, I personally need to bring up because I had a chance to review the comments made by Commissioner Koulianos, where he specifically picked apart a person's resume and lifestyle and choices, and I thought that was totally uncalled for. I believe, without going into any passionate dissertation on how I feel, because I kept back at the time, because believe me, at the time, my opinion would have been much more vitriolic than it is now. I think Mr. Koulianos owes a public apology to Mr. Ledje, and I think he owes a public apology to the citizens of Tarpon Springs for that soliloquy that he gave in regards to Mr. Ledje's capabilities. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Eisner.
I don't know if I want to talk on that one. I've had enough today. I personally thought that we have to be bigger and say that we had to thank both candidates, and if the shoe didn't fit and you didn't see a fit for them, that we move forward, and I would have preferred that. So that's all I want to say on that. I also want to say that I did represent Tarpon Springs at Florida League of Cities, and I have some good feedback. Some of it I've already brought up to Mark, some of it I will continue to bring up with regard to security and a number of other things. So I will be sitting down with Mark and sharing that. I just had family here up until a couple of days ago, but I will be able to sit down and update the city manager on what that whole 4 days were. So, and I want to apologize and thank all the residents. And as far as I'm concerned, I have moved forward. So I will not be bringing anything up again like that.
Okay. Commissioner Kulyas.
Yes, I want to first start off with Tarpon Arts. And Division has started off, went to go by and see their little kickoff party. They got a lot of cool events and plays happening. And so it's interesting to see all that happen. Hopefully in the near future, there may be a item being requested for beer and wine sales at some of these events to consider. We got hopefully pickleball courts coming up here in the next few meetings. The residents are urgent about that. As far as, just tonight, I'm proud we got it all out there as we should. If I believe if you were in my position, you'd want to get it all out there too for transparency. That seems to be the word for the day. And as far as some of the opinions from some of the commissioners on this subject, even though there was professional reviews done, it's definitely disappointing, but you get to see how their reasoning is from time to time, and that's a good thing. And we've turned the corner, and I'm happy moving forward. We're going to the first and third Tuesdays of the month moving forward. There's a lot of reasons for it. It's not just including, sales negotiations. Also has to include the fact that some individuals on this board did not want to answer questions that they were protected by. And so we moved forward. We turned the corner, and I'm proud of it. And that's what we're gonna do from now. We're gonna run a tight ship around here, no nonsense politics, and we're gonna look out for the citizens of Tarpon Springs. And at times there have been, there was a claim that there was a personal agenda item brought up on my behalf, but there have been a lot of personal agenda items that have been brought up in the past. So there's no need to go back to bring them up. But like I said, I've moved forward now. I can easily move forward, and we're gonna take care of our community. And that's what we're gonna do. But we're not gonna play the victims anymore, and we're gonna take care of this community and move forward. And if we ever need to air out something, we're gonna air it out here in the public once again. Thank you all.
I didn't ask City Manager, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Chief, do you have anything? Ms. Jacobs?
I do not.
Okay, well,
Do I get it?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Kulianis.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on going down this road, but since the vice mayor made such a impassioned plea for me to apologize, that meeting was, when we're on the edge, and it was clear that we were on the edge of making a decision which I thought was a critically wrong decision. That was an open forum interview of candidates. I dissected both of the candidates' resumes. We had all talked about that it was going to be a decision about whether we were going to go in a different direction or hire one of these two people or possibly keep our city manager that we have. So it was a comparison between our city manager and those two gentlemen. How I perceived the interviews is my prerogative to speak, regardless of whether you have your indignation and how high and where you take your voice modulation of indignation. I have a right. And that's what I did. I'm proud of the result. Again, I don't have a time machine. Maybe I could use a word here or there differently. That's for me. It's not for you. You don't, again, chastise me like a child, just like you told Commissioner Kulias to grow up. That's not your role. He is a duly elected official that doesn't need to be told to grow up by you. And you can go ahead and chastise me. Actually, I was actually going to give you kudos because I was proud of you. I was proud of you and the vote that you cast at the last meeting. And I was going to applaud you, and I do applaud you for your open and objective view of things. So I have compliments for you, even though you don't have those for me. But again, if the result is that we have our city manager versus what I believed was a not as qualified candidate, I'm proud of that result. And when we have our workshop and we have an opportunity to talk about other results, and if I have to, if a tongue lashing from you is the result of what I believed was the right decision, I can handle that. Okay, so that was a meeting that had to take place, in my opinion, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of where our city is now. I'm happy. I want to work with our city manager for the rest of his tenure, and I think that I was, again, proud to champion that cause, and that's that. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. And I also wanted to bring up that I forgot that the day after we had that interview process, there was a public records request that was put in by one of the candidates, Mr. Liege, wanting our city-related information from all 5 of the commissioners, including the city manager, and I just thought that was odd. And there was also some communication between Mr. Eisner and Mr. Liege, as well as the mayor and Mr. Liege, and so, you know, it is what it is, but to put a public records request in the day after, it's just not a good look. You gotta have tough skin if you wanna be the city manager around here in Tarpon Springs, and I'm very happy I stuck to my guns because you have to be insensitive to be a city manager here. It's one of the toughest gigs there is, and so seeing that move the day after was disappointing, in which they were possibly one of our lead candidates. Thank you.
Commissioner Eisner.
I just need to clarify, because my name was mentioned. I apologized for the treatment that John Legge had here, is what I sent him. And I was very proud to apologize because I didn't think that he was treated well. Other than that, I had no other comment to him. So I would appreciate you not imply that I had conversation with him, because I did not. That's all I did was apologize. He was mistreated here. They both are super qualified people, and if they didn't fit the makeup of Tarpon Springs, that's what should have been happening. I don't want to work on Mr. Commissioner Koulianis's comments. I would not have treated him like that. I said point blank, they're both qualified, and I never even got to discuss the point of whether I would consider either one of them for a position, because there was comments made that the mayor had a piece of paper that made people have a decision. There is no piece of paper the mayor can hand me that would make me make a decision that important. I make my own decisions, whether the mayor sends out something just to give some form to how we should move forward. That's what I have to say.
Okay. Yes. Get my report. Of course. 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 Of
can I just give a report when you get a chance?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to give you an update on the Sagonis property.
Thank you very much.
So we had done some negotiations back and forth. Yeah, we're not close. I think they're looking at the city for moving forward with the eminent domain, which we will.
Okay.
But we were trying to see if we could get somewhere. We did not.
Okay.
That was my update. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salzman.
Chorus Park, Sigonia's property.
All I'm going to say is my emails speak for themselves. I think I write pretty clearly in English, so anybody that has an interest of what I said or what I didn't say to anybody, feel free. You can get them from the city clerk's office. And I just want to end this evening on a positive note and thank Mr. Salzman for stepping in way back when we needed him as a city attorney. And I know his workload has increased, just like Mrs. Kardash's workload has increased significantly in trying to catch up with a lot of these policies that I won't say that they're new policies. There's things that should have been done a long time ago. And I know, Mr. Salzman, you know, you've got a hearing tomorrow morning. Yes, and sir. We're going to finish up at a reasonable hour tonight. And Ms. Jacobs, you do as well. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for us. So.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned at 8:21.